I'll tell you about Josh. Josh was a first class graduate, confident. He was that kind of person who always had an answer. 3 months into his job, his team had a review meeting. His manager flagged an error in the report, in front of everyone. And Josh, without thinking, said, "That's not my fault. I sent the correct version. Somebody must have changed it." He wasn't necessarily lying. He genuinely believed that. For the room went quiet. His manager didn't argue, she just moved on. And after the meeting, a colleague pulled him aside and said something he never forgot. She said, "You may have been right, but you lost something in that room." Josh spent, the next couple of days and weeks, wondering about what she was talking about. And slowly, he began to understand. It wasn't about the error, it was about how you responded to pressure. And in the workplace, how you respond to pressure is a part of your reputation. One of the biggest surprises many young professionals experience when they start working is this. They discover that the smartest person in the room is not always the most successful person in the room. Think about it. And this is confusing at first because school train us to believe that intelligence is the main thing. The highest score, the best student, the correct answer. But the workplace is different. Very different. In classroom, intelligence makes you stand out. And in the workplace, emotional intelligence makes you grow. And if you don't develop this skill early in your career, you will find yourself in a situation where you are right, but you're still losing. And today we're going to talk about why. Welcome back to Zero Young Professional. My name is Faith Oluwadosi, and this is episode 5 of our series, Transition from School to the Workplace. In the last episode, we talked about the unwritten rules of the workplace, the invisible system that shapes how organization actually functions. And if you have not seen that video, please go back and watch it. And today, we're talking about something that will affect your growth, your relationship, your reputation, your opportunities more than you may realize, and which is emotional intelligence. And this might be one of the most important professional skills you will ever develop. So you're asking, what exactly is emotional intelligence? Emotional intelligence is not about being emotional. No, it's about being aware of yourself, aware of other people, and aware of how your behavior affects the environment around you. It's about how you manage your emotions, how you respond instead of react, how you read the room, how you give a feedback or how you handle feedback, how you work with different personalities and stay professional under pressure. Technical skill may get you hired. Emotional intelligence determines how far you go. Dear young professional, you'll be tested emotionally at work. No one really prepares you for this emotional side of work. You'll be tested in ways that has nothing to do with your degree. You may experience things like someone taking credit for your work, a manager correcting you in front of others, being left out of a meeting, getting feedbacks you don't even agree with, working with someone who is difficult, being overlooked for something you've worked hard for. So, let me stay on one of those for a moment. Imagine you put together a presentation or a report. You did an excellent job. You researched, you stayed late at night. You went back and forth just to ensure that this presentation or this report comes out very great. And in the meeting, your manager presented to the leadership team and they loved it, they commended him and all of that. And no one mentioned your name. Your name never came up, not once at all. So, what do you do with that feeling? Because that feeling is actually real. You start feeling, but I did this presentation, I did the report, I did all of the work, I did all of the research, and not one credit went to me. So, what do you do with that feeling? Because the feeling is real, it's frustrating, and it's sort of human to feel that way. But here's what most young professionals don't realize in that moment: how you carry yourself after that meeting, whether you go quiet or you complain to the wrong person, whether you let it show on your face, that becomes part of how people see you. Yeah, your reaction. The situation was unfair, but your response is still yours. You determine how you react. And that is exactly where emotional intelligence comes in. And in those moments, your reaction will matter more than the situation itself. I don't know if you guys have been in that situation where something happens and based on whatever, however you reacted, the situation becomes more about your reaction over what exactly happened. So your career will not only be defined by your performance, it will also be defined by your reactions. Yes. One of the biggest signs that someone is growing professionally is emotional control, being in charge of your own emotions, being able to control it. Not everything needs a reaction. Not every comment needs a response, and not every situation needs to become a confrontation. I know Gen Zs, they have a lot to do in this regard. Professional maturity is the ability to pause, to think and respond strategically instead of emotionally. That's why you hear some people say they play a lot of politics at work. Some of these things that they call politics at work is being emotionally intelligent. So, being professional is not about being quiet, it's about being in control, it's about being intentional, and it's about being wise in how you respond. There is one lesson I want you to take away from this video that will save you a lot of stress in your career. Don't take everything personal. Your manager being stressed is not always about you. Every feedback, every response, conversation sometimes is not entirely about you. So you must learn not to take things personal. A short email is not always anger. Feedback is not always an attack. And sometimes work is just work. When everything feels personal, work becomes more emotional. And when you learn perspective, work becomes professional. So, how do you actually build your emotional intelligence as a young professional? Start with this. One, pause before reacting, because your first emotional response is really your best professional one. Yeah, just breathe. Breathe before reacting, right? Two, ask questions before assuming, because most workplace tension comes from filling in gaps with the wrong story. Assumption is the lowest form of knowledge, so you don't want to make decisions or react based on assumptions. Three, separate your ego from work, because feedback on your output is not a verdict on your work. You must be able to separate your ego from work. When you are taking feedbacks or when feedback is being given to you, you must know that it's not necessarily about who you are as a person. It's not about you. It's not about your words. It's about the output of what you have done. And we are trying to fix that. Four, learn to let small things go. The energy you spend on small grievances is energy you can't spend on growth. So, emotional intelligence is built in moments when you choose maturity over ego. If you remember nothing else from this episode, I want you to remember one thing. Your intelligence may get you into the room, it could get you the job, but your emotional intelligence will determine what happened inside those rooms. The workplace is not just a test of how smart you are, it's a test of how you handle pressure, people's feedback, conflict, and responsibility. And many careers don't fail because of lack of knowledge, they fail because of lack of emotional maturity. So let's go back to Josh. He didn't lose his job after the meeting. He didn't get a formal warning, but something shifted in how his manager saw him and he felt it. So he made a decision. He started, paying attention not just to work, but to himself, how he responded, how he showed up when things went wrong. And over time, something changed, not his intelligence, that was already there, but what changed was his awareness, and that made all of the difference. This is Art of Young Professional. We're not just helping you become qualified, we're helping you become wiser, aware, and prepared for the workplace. And I will see you in episode 6 of this series.